Alrighty folks, we are here in the testing grounds because today we are doing a follow-up video to the testing that we did on a previous video of cooking up the highest magic power build possible. So in that video we took a deep dive into a spreadsheet, crunched the numbers, and came up with some builds that produced a ridiculous amount of magic power, both looking at ability based magic power bursting with damage and cooldown, and also auto attack. And we are in here in the testing ground to see what kind of numbers they put out and see how they feel. We have 3 builds to look at today. We've got a build that I've already have built on here first, which I believe to be about the most optimal DPS build for ability based. We can take a look at that now. But after this we've got a similar build but based on pin, so more of a tank killer type build, a tank shredder build with some more Wraith leggings and Caustica mixed into it, to do some more pin on armored targets. We'll see what the actual true damage numbers come out as versus what it says these numbers are. So that will be interesting to see. And then we have got a auto attack mage build, so we're gonna have to switch over to another hero for that, or we'll just reset and pull up Gideon again. I guess is probably what we'll do. That way it's more consistent. Although Howitzer is probably the one that I would want to test it on in game in an actual match. So first off, we're looking at this build. Don't want to waste anyone's time, so we're getting into the most what looks to be the most efficient one first for pure burst damage. We are attacking a steel, as that is the test dummy that they have here in the training ground, so he is going to have some armor. If we look, he doesn't have any items built, so this is just base level 18 steel, the standard armor that he gets just from leveling up. But we're going to take a look at this first, and then we're going to go into the tank killer build, and then last we are going to look at the auto attack build. So if you're interested on how we got any of these numbers or these builds, check out that previous video that was done all in a spreadsheet. A lot of number crunching and formulas used for cooldown and whatnot, but I think it came out well, and I think we cooked up quite a decent set of builds. We may at the end also look at the super max power build to see if we can get it to say a ridiculous number. Right now this build is what I believe to be the most optimal, and we've built it pretty much in order that you would build it in a game. So Azure Core first, keeping in mind you don't actually have to build Azure Core. I would actually build Azure Core pretty much last, unless you just want the shield earlier in the game. But in order to get into your stacking items, I would just build Alchemical Rod as early as possible, first item, and then you go into Orb of Growth, which is right up here. So you build that, get it stacked up, it'll evolve into the Orb of Enlightenment, and then you've got Time Warp Megacosm in the mid game, and then World Breaker and Oblivion Crown in the late game. So see, World Breaker gives you that 18 or that mana based power, and then Oblivion Crown or World Breaker gives you the power based off of your health built, and then Oblivion Crown gives you just a nice 18% bonus. So when we crunched the numbers on this, we came out to 722.5 power total, which is good because it looks like our number crunching was correct, and it says that we are at 723 on our magical power up there in the top left. So let's see what kind of numbers this puts out. According to the skill readout, Void Breach is, well, we'll do all of the testing with Cosmic Rift because it is the highest scaling one. I believe it has 70% of your power scaling. So it is reading at 816 magical power up there, or magical damage. So if we hit steel with it, we see the first hit there did 544. is what that was. We'll wait for World Breaker to reset. We'll check it again. 544. So that's what it says. Now if we stack up World Breaker, we'll hit the ult here just to make sure it's fully stacked. So World Breaker's at 6 stacks. You see it does 609. Keep our stacks up here. And it does 609 again. So 609 after the damage mitigation, 816 before the damage mitigation. And it's pretty easy if you're actually going to be in combat to keep that World Breaker stacked up, because you have Megacosm. So you see those ticks are going off. So almost by the time that this comes off of cooldown, World Breaker just barely resets. So if you're hitting at least 2 abilities, you're going to keep World Breaker at 6 stacks easily. And I mean, look at these cooldowns. You know, this I feel like is definitely close to competing with carry damage numbers, which you would hope for if you're on a full max power build. But that cooldown that you get from Time Warp is just insane. You see, every time I hit this, it's either a 5 or 6 second cooldown on the Rift, and then the Void Breach is on about a 5 or a 4 second, depending on when your Time Warp tick hits. So you see the Time Warp down there in the bottom right is ticking around every 8 seconds. It takes a second off of all these. So massive damage coming out at a ridiculously fast rate. I mean, you can just spam these back to back, keep your World Breaker up, keep Megacosm ticking, and pump out huge damage. Now also the ult, pre-mitigation is doing 2651 over 3.5 seconds. So you see with World Breaker stacked up, we're ticking on him for just under 200 a tick. So this is quite a bit of damage, and you have a fair amount of mana regen from Time Warp, so it's keeping up our mana decently. If you're spamming it out for long enough like this, you are going to be able to run out, but the amount of burst that you're going to be able to provide before then, and not just burst but consistent damage with how fast this cooldown, is pretty impressive. So once again, we will write down these numbers real quick. When we're stacked up here on 6 stacks of World Breaker. So on 6 stacks of World Breaker, we're doing 514 with the inline meteor, and oh, now we're out of mana. We'll have to get some mana back. I believe it's 514 and 609. We'll take this bug out to get a little mana refill. Okay, there's 6 stacks, and that is doing 514, and that is doing 609. So, alrighty folks, we are back in here. We reset so that we could get a new starter. We went ahead and grabbed the Typhoon starter, because for this tank killer build, as I outlined here in the spreadsheet, we can use any of the starters from the occult side to get to this level, and we're going to need this Typhoon starter to test out the auto attack build, so I went ahead and put it on. Now looking at the build, this is kind of a sample build order that I put together for this one. Really, these first 3 items you can build in any order that you want, but one thing that's interesting about this tank killer build is there's no stacking items. Your starter item being evolved is the only like stacking type item that you're leveling up. You don't have Azure Core in here, or Orb of Growth. Now you could easily swap out Spirit of Amir for Azure Core or Orb of Growth if you wanted either of those passives. If you wanted more health at the end game so you don't get deleted so fast, you could swap this out for Orb of Growth, and you'd end up doing plenty of damage still because of the World Breaker passive, or you could swap this out for Azure Core. You don't have a ridiculous amount of mana built, but you still get good value from Azure Core. So on that spreadsheet, the calculation came out to 636.3 magic power, which looks like we did the calculation correct because that is what our magical power is reading. Now I do have to keep in mind with Spirit of Amir on here, if we step down here into the jungle, that power goes down to 596. So you do, oh, do I not have the range to get up there? Oh, I do. You do lose out on that power in the jungle, so, you know, if that's a problem, like I said, you just swap this out for either Orb of Growth or Azure Core, which either one of those, if you did swap it in, you would want to build quite early. But a little sample build we put together here: Wraith Leggings first, Caustica second for the mana regen, and Megacosm third, because you're going to get better value off of the passive the later into the game you are, because it's dealing based off of their target's max health. So that's the build. You know, Spirit of Amir is probably the only one that I would swap out. It is in here because it gives you additional 8 flat pin, and you just don't have that many options to swap in to get the flat pin back from somewhere else. I mean, you have 7 flat pin on Combustion, but as we saw in our calculations, Combustion is just generally not worth it. You know, the cooldown, the 15-second cooldown on the passive is just too long to really be beneficial. So this is the build. You can see smaller damage number, or smaller magical power number, at 636 versus the, you know, full Azure Core Orb of Growth stacking build, which got to 723. So nearly 100. I got around 90 less power, magical power on this build, which is reflected by the readout here in the skills. You see Cosmic Rift is only reading at 755, and Void Breach is only reading at 637, but I have a feeling that with all of this pin, what does it read out here? Reads at 18 flat pin, and then plus the Ignore from Caustica, Ignore 35% of magical armor. And then of course, while dealing ability damage over 50% health, we get bonus damage. Now again, this steel has no items built, so he's not going to have as big of a armor as he would, and the numbers aren't going to be as big as they actually would be from this Caustica passive. But we'll take a look here and see what it says. First, we need to. Oh yeah, that's already looking like significantly more. Okay, so with World Breaker stacked, that just hit for 7. Check it again here. World Breaker's still stacked. 739. And then 623, I believe that was. We'll check it again here. That is 739. And 623. Wow. So, despite the fact that this build is making less power by about 90, the penetration, even on a 0 built armor steel here, is making it do significantly more damage. Even before World Breaker is stacked. Yep, there's 623 and 739. So that's 130 more damage coming out of the Rift when you are at full build, full spamming, keeping World Breaker up. 130 more damage coming out of the Rift, despite it reading significantly less power, is very impressive. It really shows you the value that Pin has, and you know, makes you rethink the whole idea of, I'm just going to build as big of a power number as I can, because, you know, how good is the power number if the damage doesn't translate? Now, also having Caustica means that the tick damage that you're seeing come off of World Breaker here, 83 a tick, 87 a tick there. Yeah, 87 a tick. The Megacosm ticks are also going to be higher because you're penetrating that armor more efficiently. So, something to consider. Now, the cooldowns are a little bit longer. If we spam both of these out, you're going to see it is again, in the 5-second range on the meteor throw, and in the 7-second range on the rift. We have less ability haste built on this build, mainly because we don't have time warp now, and not having time warp is definitely a hindrance. You see on this build screen we are at 28 ability haste versus the 48 that we were on the other build, plus the time warp on top of that. So your cooldowns are longer, and you don't have as much mana regen, because the only mana regen is coming from Caustica. So if we see mana regen is at 8%, so it's +8 down there, versus the other one, which was keeping you up faster. You're going to be able to run out of mana with both builds, but that is just how it is. Ult is, very similar on the damage, 40 or 2400 versus like the 2600 range. But again, the ticks are going to be larger because we're penetrating the armor better. So that is the tank killer build. Definitely makes you rethink building full power, because if you're going to put out more damage just with some pin item, mainly just from Caustica, then it's more worth building it. And if you don't care for the Megacosm ticks, which you are going to want on a tank killer build for sure, because it helps you keep up your World Breaker down there. You see, just from one ability hit, you get 4 stacks of World Breaker. 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks down there of World Breaker. So it just makes it easier to, when you spam out abilities, reset your World Breaker ticks and keep you at 6. So highly recommend Megacosm anytime you are building World Breaker. But we are going to head back to base, respec this for the final build, folks. So we are back down here. We have reset it to put together the auto attack build, and we've kind of built a sample build order that you may want to go for as well. First off, looking at the magical power, it is saying 605, which we calculated out to be 604.8, so it looks like, again, our calculations were correct. We are setting on a large amount of magic power still. The mana regen is not there compared to the other builds, because we do not have as much mana regen built. I don't think there's a single mana regen item built here. No, there is not, but we do have a ton of ability haste, so 58 ability haste makes me definitely think this can still be a very bursty build. That it even out builds the cooldown build, although this cooldown will be a lot slower because we do not have time warp. So still going to have fast cooldowns, still have a lot of power at right around the 600 mark. If we read our abilities, it still says 733 on Cosmic Rift and 618 on Void Breach, but we do not have the pin to back it. We have only 8 magical pin coming out of Spirit of Amir, and no % pin since we don't have Caustica built. But here's the kind of sample build order you would probably want to go with. Any of these first 4 items you could switch around however you want, though. If you want to front load it with attack speed before you're able to get Typhoon online, you'd probably want to go Prophecy straight into Plasma Blade. But I think I would like Plasma Blade 4th item here, because the value you're going to get from Magnify and Oathkeeper is just too great. And building Magnify 2nd item gives you that 8% Omni Vamp as well. So you'll be able to keep your health up. And Prophecy I feel like is a great first item, because massive attack speed, ability haste, power, and it gives you what you're kind of relying on for this build, which is the basic attacks dealing magical damage in addition to physical damage. So, but by the time you have just Prophecy, Magnify, and Oathkeeper up, you're going to have big procs to hit. When you move around, you see the Magnify down there is already at 100 stacks. When we do a basic attack, that will reset, and you see it. If we stand still here, it just sets at 16. If we move around, it stacks up, but it stacks up very fast when you're casting abilities. So reset it here, you see it's stacking up. We hit one ability, hit two abilities, and it's going to be fully stacked up. So about every second and a half, you're going to get that proc. And then Oathkeeper is the same way. It's on a 1.5 seconds cooldown. You see the hands are glowing purple here. So if we cast a basic attack like that, and we'll cast an ability. Now our hands are glowing red with Oathbreaker or Oathkeeper. Is it Oathkeeper? Yeah, it's Oathkeeper. So you see our hands have no glow on them. Cast an ability, they glow red for the Oathkeeper proc is ready. And then if we move around a little bit more here, cast an ability, you see they are, well, it's kind of hard to see now because we have a big shield on us, but see they are glowing purple from the Magnify being ready to proc. So we're going to wait these 9 seconds out and these 13 seconds out for our attack buffs to go away before we do the testing right here on this steel. But it looks like it's good. I mean, before Typhoon stacks up, it's reading 234. Okay, yep, we just lost the buff. So 214 basically attack speed, but that will pale in comparison to what it stacks up to. I'm actually curious to see if it even reads the stacks. Okay, when we're stacked up with Typhoon, it reads 306, basically 306 and a half when Typhoon is stacked. Now again, Typhoon gives you stacking, well, I'll just read it, on successful basic attacks. Gain a stack of Cyclone on hit for 3 seconds. Each stack increases your attack speed by 5 plus 3% of your magic power as a percentage, and it stacks up to 4 times. And then you also get a short dash that's only on a 20-second cooldown. So that is quite nice. You see, like I said, it starts off kind of slow, then once you get stacked up, boom, the autos are coming out fast. It stacks up to 306 attack speed when you're at 4 stacks. And it doesn't take long to get those 4 stacks either, so that's pretty good. You also see some crits were popping up there. That is from Plasma Blade. See, Plasma Blade is now at 5 stacks. So we have the crit stacked up from that. 8% critical strike chance for 3 seconds stacks up to 5 times. So we get a free 40% crit chance from that. Now, we're not doing enough physical damage to really hit any big crits or anything, but nice little added bonus, a little extra sustain damage. Once you get the damage rolling, it's going to up it even more. So one more look at the glowing hands. You see we're now purple glowing hands for the Magnify proc, and then if we cast out an ability, we now have purple. We can't see the red very well through it, but it's both purple and red glow. And then boom, we hit that massive auto attack. We'll hit a cast ability. So there's the red glow, and there is the Oathkeeper proc. So just basic auto attacking. We're doing 99 magical damage and 74 on a non-crit, 115 on a crit to this steel, and that's without any sort of pin built really. And that's, I mean, that's pretty respectable damage. Basically over 200 damage most attacks. When you're critting, so you have 40% crit chance, so 40% of your attacks are going to be hitting hard. I mean, on a softer target, they're going to hit hard as well. Again, this steel has no items, so if he was full armor, these would definitely be tickling him a lot more than this. But then if we get our Magnify up, see the 100 stacks with the purple glow hands, and then we cast an ability. Now we have both procs, and we hit that hit for 464. Again, we'll get these procced up, and when you're casting abilities, spamming abilities in combat like this, it's going to be proccing very frequently. Again, that hits for 464, so that is significant damage. I mean, you can see we're actually burning this steel down just from auto attacks, and your abilities are still going to be hitting very hard. I mean, you have just marginally less power built and no pin compared to the other build, so we'll just check the actual base ability damage. We also don't have World Breaker to worry about keeping stacks up, so your first ability hit is going to hit just as hard as the rest of them. So that Rift hit for 435, I believe it was. We'll wait again and check again. 435, so that's not bad. That's about 80 damage less than the Time Warp cooldown build, and about 190 damage less than the pin build. So that armor is definitely making a big difference. Then we'll hit it with the Rift, 517. So again, that's actually like 210-ish damage less than with the pin build. But you got to keep in mind how much damage these autos are doing. I mean, look at his health bar here. We get rolling up. And then just look at that. Massive damage being put out because you're going to be able to just intermix in your abilities. And the big thing about this auto attack build is that Magnify plus Oathkeeper proc. So boom, Magnify and Oathkeeper proc up, 464 damage on that hit. And if we're casting abilities out like this, moving around, auto attacking, you're going to be able to get that Magnify. See, Magnify is already almost back up. Magnify is up. We need some mana. We don't have any mana regen built on this build, so you're definitely going to be more reliant on your autos. But Magnify, Oathkeeper proc, at the same time, again 464 on top of the 74 damage. So, trying to not hit him with abilities so we don't actually burn his health down here. So 305 just when Oathkeeper procs, and then like 250 magic when just Magnify procs. Let's get the Magnify proc. Yep, so around 246 there. But yeah, you could see the potential in this auto attack build. If you're on somebody like Howitzer as well, you get a little bit of extra passives, a little bit extra damage on your autos from your passive, but this is just able to absolutely melt despite not having any pin. You also get this little short jump from Typhoon. Not that you need it on Gideon by any means, but maybe on a less escapable hero, you can, all you have to do is have 4 autos, 1, 2, 3, 4 autos stacked up, and then it's only on a 20-second cooldown to where you can do this little jump. So, maybe on a hero where you have really rough escapability, that could help you out. But that's going to do it for these 3 builds that we're testing. It looks like all of them came out as I expected. Definitely going to hop into some matches and try these out. The auto attack one is a little odd, but it seems like it outputs good damage. Again, this one does have Spirit of Amir, so if we jump down here into the jungle, we're at 566 damage instead of the, what were we at up here? Around 604, yeah, 605. So, something to consider. You could, again, swap that out for Azure Core, Orb of Growth, whatever you are feeling. Maybe a mana regen item. If you want to just slot Time Warp in there, you definitely could do that. But 8% damage outside of the jungle is a big amount at the end of the game. It's not so much early game, which is why this build order is the way it is. You really want Oblivion Crown last almost all the time because it doesn't give you anything but power. And it's an 18% scaling item. So thanks for watching, guys. We had some fun testing these builds. Go check out the deep dive video into the spreadsheet if you're interested on how we calculated any of these builds. And let me know if you'd like to get a hold of that spreadsheet or whatever. I can send that to you, and you can play around with it some of your on your own. But thanks for watching. Also check out, we just put up a Terra in Sololane video that was pretty fun, and then a couple days ago we had out a Quang build testing video where we compared a armor start Quang, armor power item start, versus a basically 6 health item Quang build of Pinzo's creation. So check those out if you're interested in Quang or Terra in the Sololane. We've got a Drongo game coming out here soon as well that should be fun. So thanks for watching. We will catch y'all on the next one. Alrighty folks, a little bonus for anybody who stuck around this long into the video. Showing an interest in some magical power builds. We went ahead and reset, pulled out Howitzer, and built these stacking items. So if you wanted to build Obelisk, it's one of those limitless stacking items that you can build. This one's off of your starter if you go on the occult side. And its passive is, well, its active is, it enhances your next basic attack. And then if the target that you hit dies within 3 seconds of you hitting it, you get a permanent 1 magical power from that. And then we've built a little sample build here, kind of similar to the other ones where we've got World Breaker, Spirit of Amir, and Oblivion Crown, because big percent scaling is nice at the end game. And then we've got Dreambinder because it gives you 90 power plus 350 health, so huge power gains after the World Breaker passive down there. And then Orb of Growth and Enlightenment because it's just the best, you know, gives you the most health, gives you massive procs off of World Breaker. And then we've went first item Soulbinder. This is the other limitless stacking item similar to Obelisk, where it is on a 10-second cooldown, and when you damage enemies from afar, not only do you deal a bonus 8% damage, but you get a permanent 1 magical power from it as well. And both of these are very easy to stack up. You see, just hit Obelisk whenever you kill something. The stack just went from 15 to 16 there. And you see down there at Soulbinder in the very bottom right, we are at 45 and it is off timer. We picked up Howitzer here because he's pretty much the easiest to stack Soulbinder. You obviously have your missile that you can hit people from very far away with, and proc the Soulbinder. You see it reset the timer, it's going around. Go ahead and pop this again. But you know, the missile only has so far it can go. I mean, it can go, we can hit him from here probably with the splash, yeah, so easy to stack it that way, but it's also very easy to get your stacks by, you can just lob up your little minefield like that and super easily get stacks, or you can lob your knockback mine out super far distance, super long range poke, and stack that Soulbinder up quick, especially if you build it first item like I have built on this build. So if you go first item Soulbinder and then, you know, get Obelisk as fast as you can. Obelisk is a little bit more of a pain to stack up because you got to auto attack minions and stuff and take them out, and also it's going to take longer to get online because you got to finish your starter. But if you get both of these up and then late game build these percent scaling items, you can get ridiculous numbers. You may have already looked at we're setting at 833 magical power right now, with what is now 19 stacks on the Obelisk, and we'll pop Steel again. We're at 49 stacks on Soulbinder, so we'll make this a quick round number when these two finish out. And again, Howitzer is just the easiest one to stack this with. You could easily stack this with other characters like Iggy, if you put your turrets out and then stand way back. Gadget would be an easy one. You can lob out your super long range pops. Both of your abilities have quite long range, so that is the stacking, the maximized stacking build if you're interested, for just the biggest power number possible. Now we're at 50 Soulbinder stacks and 20 Obelisk stacks, so 70 magical power just coming from the extra stacks on these two items. Has a setting at 838 magical power. Now again, 8% of that is coming from Spirit of Amir, so if we jump down here into the jungle, that goes down to 784. But definitely just a nice, like, if you want the limitless late game biggest power number possible, that's what you want to build. If we look, it says our R2000 missile is dealing 891 damage. Now obviously we don't have the pin to back that and actually get all of that damage out, but if we look, see what it says it's hitting for. I think that said 768. Let's try it again here. Okay, that one we were a little too close, or no, I guess the yeah, so you only get the 8% bonus damage every 10 seconds when Soulbinder is off of cooldown. So if we hit with it off cooldown 629, I guess that said. What take another look here when it comes off of cooldown. Yeah, so 629 is how much damage that dealt. If we hit him when we're not on Soulbinder cooldown and we're in range here, it's 630. Okay, wait, hold on. Should do more, I guess. 630. Oh, the little 71 pop-up is the extra damage that was added. If we hit him right here, you see it still does the 630, but it doesn't have that little 71 proc. So when it's off cooldown, I mean, this is hitting for over 700 damage without pin. So definitely some potential if you're willing to stay on top of your Obelisk and Soulbinder early. And stack them up like this, you can get huge power late game. You can see it's on a Obelisk is on a 20-second cooldown, and Soulbinder's on a 10-second. So you can just, if you stay on top of both of them, if you're poking frequently in the mid-early game, build Soulbinder first like that, and then whenever you go into kill minions, you just hit your Obelisk. You can get ridiculous power stacks. You see we're almost at 850 here, and it doesn't take that long. Since these percent scaling items are going to take it up higher and higher into the late game, you're getting even better value. You're getting 26% more power value on your stacks that you do build. So thanks for watching again, guys. Check out those other videos that we've been working on recently if you're interested in Quang or Terra solo. And be on the lookout for a Drongo video coming out soon. So we'll see y'all in the next one.